I'll jump in here real quick if that's all right. Yeah, I wanted to give some pushback to the idea of the LeBron James analogy and the other forms of physical labor compared to the CEO. And I'm going to justify the idea that yeah, maybe a CEO does produce 4,000 times the value. And here's the thing: when it comes to the LeBron analogy, you mentioned playing a game of one-on-one. The issue is that he's capped by a body, right? And same thing when it comes to employees that do physical labor. They're they're capped by the physical labor that they can produce, right? But the issue, and here's why I think it doesn't make any sense to compare them, is because I think it's two different planes of value. Meaning, physical labor is really dependent mostly on effort, right? But when it comes to a CEO, they're not necessarily doing physical labor, and they don't really get paid for that. But it's more like they get paid for the impact of their decisions and how they leverage that over massive multi national organizations, right? So it's kind of unfair to how can I put it? Compare how much a CEO is making to an employee when the reason why they're getting paid are very different reasons. And it's like, look, maybe it's not that the CEO is doing 4 times the labor, but just the fact that their decisions sort of affect thousands of employees. The millions.
Well, it's bigger than that, and I just want to insert this, and you please continue. I would make the argument that Jeff Bezos is 1.5 million times more valuable than each one of his employees because he has created jobs for 1.5 million people, whereas the people that are working for him have created no jobs. And so the mere fact that he's employed 1.5 million people, yes, he's absolutely worth more money than any of the people that work.
I totally agree. When you think about a business, it's sort of like the centralization of value. You're giving value to the customer, to the employees that you're hiring. Maybe you're giving them benefits, way to feed their family. You're giving value to the shareholder, and you're giving value so much to the point that it's the value that you're giving and people wanting that value over their own dollars is what creates the large sum of money that CEOs get paid. So it's sort of like they get paid so much because they provide so much value, and then the second they stop providing that value, then we get to put it somewhere else. So I think in that sense, it's sort of like, and this is why I said fair in a chat before, which is like, look, this seems like if everybody is sort of like someone was describing, increasing the slice of the pie so more people can get the slice of the pie, and theirs is bigger despite everyone still getting a slice of the pie, and everyone agreed to the roles that they're in, right? They're all doing this through voluntary participation. It seems like that seems pretty fair to me. And it's like, look, if everyone agreed to the income that they're making at this job, it's like I feel kind of weird being the person sort of stepping in between someone and sort of getting in between a salary that they agree to with their own volition and things like that. So it seems to me that that it's totally fair that the CEO gets paid more, and I think that it's justified in the value that they provide, because it's just their decisions are just affecting a lot more people, billions of capital, whereas an employee, even though, look, they're doing a really useful job, right? But it's like the impact of their labor, depending on a job, really, it's sort of it's just not as big as a single decision that a CEO can make that affects billions of capital.
Also, too, like when you look at this, the accountability factor, like which everybody's just not bringing up. I'm gonna go back because I know somebody in my life that really loved Pottery Barn, or not Pottery. Yeah, was it Pier 1 Imports, whatever that fucking company.
It wasn't a man. It wasn't a man, baby. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. But this person, I really loved me, and I loved her. But she loved Pier 1. Pier 1 went out of business. And the overall issue was that they couldn't compete. They couldn't develop. And everybody was screaming about the jobs. Everybody was upset because this institution was going away. They called it a must-save. And they blamed who? The board, the CEO. everybody in leadership. Not one employee took accountability. There wasn't an employee up there going, you know what, I failed Pier 1 because I couldn't sell enough items. I couldn't keep us in the black. I couldn't keep us moving. You never hear that from employees. And this like delusion of grandeur that you're somehow bigger than the other parts that are needed to run through. Someone has to steer the ship. Someone has to give the commands. And someone has to take the accountability. But it just seems like whenever I hear these equity, and Jeff Bezos should be making, what was it, 9 times, or the employee should be making, 1/9 of his salary or something like that.
100, I believe the pushback was 100 times. CEO shouldn't be making 100 times the lowest amount there.
But you should actually look up what Jeff Bezos' salary is from Amazon. I believe it's like 85, 90,000. I think they pay him $1.5 million for security through Amazon to make sure he's not killed or knocked off or somebody buying that.
Yeah, but that's not how he makes money. He makes money through shares.
Yeah, he makes money through his shares. He makes all of it through his investments in building the brands and doing all of that. That creates those jobs, like Roger said, and what Kelly was going to. I never hear the employees on the lower rung, like a Starbucks worker, going, I'm accountable because Starbucks had a bad quarter. It's my fault because I couldn't sell a pumpkin spice latte to some fucking princess driving an SUV. You never hear that. You never, it's really weird to me that workers will never take accountability, but they want all the perks. And they'll never put forth the amount of effort, energy, and have a vision to actually propel it ahead, which is why you'll have 1 in 1,000 rise to the top. They'll become a leader. They'll become a manager, supervisor, director, or whatever. They'll always rise up because those are the ones that are willing to take the accountability, the responsibility, steer it in a direction, and keep pushing and keep driving. While the rest just, I'm going to be honest, a lot of workers are just not there. I would not give $1 billion to a fucking fry cook at McDonald's because the McDonald's CEO makes a fucking fortune. It wouldn't make sense in this world. How you would ever computate that, I don't know.
Well, again,
go ahead.
I just go back to the question of there's two fundamental questions. One, why would we want to externally, enforce any type of cap on what somebody can earn? I wouldn't want to put a cap on what the CEO could pay an employee if they choose to, and I don't understand why we would want to institute a cap on the CEO. Which, by the way, CEOs don't decide what their own pay is. That's decided by the board anyway. So, yes, they have a big say in it, and. But you get paid. You negotiate these things. Some people want a $1 salary and they want more equity. He wouldn't be making that much money if he hadn't created the value that he has. One of the biggest things that he's creating is jobs itself. And I think it's interesting that the laborers or the people that don't even work there are the ones that want to give their opinion that somehow he needs to share his money with share more of what he's making with others, when the money that gets allocated for labor is adequate to keep the company going and to innovate and release new products, which creates more jobs, expands into new places. They're a global company that's employing 1.5 million people, and you want to impart your wisdom on how they might do it more fairly. And your idea of fair is that the person that's steered this ship make less money.
Yeah, hello everybody. I just got here.
Well, hold on before you.
Oh, sure.
Moose, I think I spoke over Moose. Moose, go ahead, and then we'll.
Thanks, Majo. Yeah. Right. So I get it. The CEOs, they take the glory and they take the brunt of the, if it's a failure, it's on the CEO, right? They have to answer to the board, the stockholders, and all that. But so like with Brad's example, though, of Tier 1, when you're saying that, well, where were the employees to help out Tier 1? I mean, I'm going to guess that the average, let's say 20 something, even college students, single mom, whatever the demographic is that work at the stores, they have absolutely no idea of the magic behind the corporate curtain. The average employee not only doesn't have any say in what stores should open or close, they have no say even on their own schedule. I'm sorry, are you coming off mic? I'm almost done. Sorry, if you could wait till I finish, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. So that's what I'm saying. So it's at the end of the day, you're saying, well, we're the employees that could have saved, Pier 1. Well, what about all the executives and high up managers that made obviously bad decisions about locations of stores, how much commerce to try to do online, product placement, the pricing, all that. And they have no say in that whatsoever. They're trying to, I think, at the end of the day, fight for their benefits. Fight for proper overtime, which actually always regulated on the up and up. I think I hear you. Like, yes, a lot of CEOs, deserve the credit for their success. However, I don't know that the employees can really be put. I don't think it's one size fits all. I think, generally the way it goes, if morale is in the toilet, it will slowly be reflected on the front line with customer service, right? And then the worse the customer service is, people start going elsewhere. But employees who do feel empowered by their executives, who do feel empowered by the managers on the floor, will again have the reverse effect. Folks will be coming in more. You get that repeat business. It's you have to empower your employees at some point. I'm not saying you have to give them every little thing they want, but come to the table and be fair.
Yeah, real quick. I just want to insert this, and then I know Steve's got to jump in too, and then you can go, Brad. But just real quickly, I agree that if there is an issue with employee morale and productivity, you should do some honest inspecting of what you can do that would improve the morale, the productivity, all of those things. And sometimes pay, sometimes benefits, sometimes it's just the environment, sometimes it's the culture and the way that you treat the employees. There's a lot of things that you could do, and I think good companies do work on that. Some companies, though, have a problem where they've got so many applicants that they have a culture where they'll treat their employees like shit, because if the person quits, they've got 100,000 people that want to take the job. But the reason why you don't want to overcorrect and fix that problem is because you have to remember, if there's a lot of applicants for that job is easy to find people to do. And so I don't advocate for treating those people like shit. In fact, I would advocate for enabling them to feel as good as they can about the job that they have, so they can be as productive as they can for you. But the question still comes down to, who should make that decision? And I wish that this app had a polling feature where we could ask the people in the chat and on the stage, do you think the government should decide these things? Do you think the company should decide these things? Do you think the employees that are in question should decide these things? Or do you think it's a combination of those things? My answer would be clear on that, but I'd be interested if you guys want to engage in the chat on this, of who you think should make that decision. And I know Steve wants to jump in, and then Brad wants to go, and I'm sure Moose wants to reply to what's being said. So let's go Steve, Brad, and then back.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Firstly, Starbucks was mentioned briefly on Starbucks. They arguably have a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement. I think their average barista gets $30 an hour, plus PTO, paid time off. They also get benefits up the gazoo, and that's just for pouring coffee, $30 an hour. As far as Jeff Bezos, as we all know, he started the company in his fucking garage with his wife, and as Roger correctly said, he now employs or has over 1.5 million people working for him. So how much should he be entitled to? I agree with Roger that I don't think people should have a limit put on their value. People are paid what they are worth. He employs 1.5 million people. Well, let's cut it down by 90%. Let's give him 150,000% more than, you know what? Let's bring it down 99%. He employs 1.5 million people. Let's give him 15,000 times what everybody else makes. Is that unfair based on those numbers? I also wanted to land with this. I know that Costco managers make anywhere between 100 and 150 grand a year, plus benefits, plus stock options. Costco employees.
Steve, can I just insert this?
Sure.
Costco also has an industry-leading 7% employee match on their 401k.
Absolutely. And for those of you that have the option of a 401k match, and you're not putting in at least the amount of the match, you are a financial idiot. If your company offers a match, and mine does, you're throwing away 100% investment on your money, tax-free, if you don't put up the match. But back to Costco. Costco managers make anywhere from between 100 and 180 grand a year, plus the match, plus stock options, plus benefits up the gazoo. Their employees are entitled to profit sharing and benefits, and I believe they make like $25-30 an hour. So are the managers not entitled to make more than, twice as much as the people that they're responsible for? Oh, they also get bonus for their manager location depending on the profits. I believe people are paid their worth. I do not believe anybody is underpaid or overpaid their worth, because if you're underpaid, go get another job at what you are paid. And Roger, thank you.
Yeah, I want to just add something to the Costco thing, because it's an interesting study. They have a culture where they almost exclusively promote from within. It is very difficult to get into their leadership ranks without being an entry-level employee. Almost everybody gets promoted from within, which makes the culture very strong, because you don't have to worry about working really hard and some outsider comes in, and because they went to the right school or know the right person, they're going to get that job. There's still going to be some nepotism within the ecosystem of the store itself, but they also have a relationship with their customers. So they treat their employees right. That's number one. The customers, since 1985, they've been offering a hot dog and a soda for $1.50. Now, I don't necessarily know the health impact of what they're doing to their customers, but financially, they've kept that at a loss for a long time, and they're going to continue to do that. In fact, when the former CEO left, he made a joke about if they raised the price of the hot dog and the soda, he would kill the new CEO. And so, like, they are dedicated to the relationship they have with their customers, and they have a culture of taking care of their employees, promoting from within, all of those types of things. And I don't think it's a secret to anyone, but most retail is so adversely affected by online shopping. But if you go to Costco any day of the week, that parking lot is fucking full. I don't care what Costco it is, anywhere in the country. They are doing something right with their employees. They're doing something right for their shareholders. I don't know if you've seen what their stock has done over these years. Everybody benefits, because I think Costco is one of the best examples in U.S. history of a company with alignment between, protecting the value for shareholders, protecting the value for employees, protecting their value for customers. I think that's a model that other companies should follow. But if you look at all the companies that don't do that have come and gone over the years, I think it's an excellent example for us to look at of, why it's good to take care of your customers and your employees.
And before Brad goes, very quickly, another example is Trader Joe's. Now, I know nothing about the stock end of Trader Joe's, but I know that most employees of Trader Joe's are happy. Most customers like me of Trader Joe's are happy. They do not hire, they do not agree, have a CBA with a union. All of their employees are non-union, and they hire from mostly, like Roger said with Costco, they hire from within. Trader Joe's is another good example.
So I was just going to go back to Moose's point when he was talking about Pier 1, and I wanted to bring up another example. It was Antiocho, whatever. He was the CEO of Blockbuster, and he was the CEO before Keys took over and like basically ran it into the ground. And he brought out a lot of visions. He wanted to put Blockbuster on to compete with Netflix and other online platforms. He wanted to take Blockbuster Music, which was the thing back in the day, and put it on to compete with iTunes, etc., all the other ones that were running out. And he ended up working and buying Viacom, or Viacom buying them in the music industry. This man faced internal pressure from not just the board, but from people within the company, other investors who said it was just a joke because Blockbuster was Blockbuster. And this guy saw the writing on the wall. And because of these internal disputes, because of employees beneath him that circumvented him, challenged his authority, challenged his decisions, challenged his vision, the company was already in a decline. To revitalize it by competing with the other markets that were emerging, and they pushed back on him so hard, it led to their own demise, where Keys comes in and basically rolled back all of Antiocho's new program, and they just rolled back all those decisions, and then all of a sudden Blockbuster fucking disappeared. All those employees lost a job because they didn't agree with the CEO's decision of where they needed to go for the future. Gives me a prime case in point that employees should never really, I mean, it's hard to say that they should have that much a say in the overall control of the company, because we've watched too many companies over the years, like a Blockbuster, fall because you had the employees revolt against leadership, revolt against vision that they don't understand. They don't look at the landscape the same way. They only look at the narrow focus of their Monday through Friday job and what their paycheck is going to bring home. And I hope in the future that I never have to worry about working with or for a company that follows that they did.
Matrix, drop out Matrix.
Yeah. As Pink Floyd once asked the eternal question, is there anybody out there? Or am I in the Matrix?
No, I hear you.
I can hear you.
I'm here for 5. I'm here for 5 minutes, and I have a meeting with my boss.
Gotcha. Steve, I was curious, before you run, before you have to go to your meeting, and I don't know the hourly rate, because all I could find for Starbucks was $15, $16 an hour with $19 for like a shift manager. I was wondering if the $30 an hour rate that you mentioned earlier, does that include stock?
Well, tell you what, I guess I better do some heavy lifting. Don't stop talking, but I'll be back in 2.
No worries. But to the question in the room, the room title, I will say, indubitably, I don't know who I'm guessing, who are the guys, Paul and Rohan, I guess, that started this app. I've read multiple articles. I think, others have too, that they, during the pandemic was their golden, they had the golden goose. They had a captive audience, brilliant idea, didn't really have competition at that time. and I think they were valued at least $1 billion at one point during the pandemic. The owners passed. They figured it would just, what could possibly go wrong? It can only go up from here. So now we see them kind of doing different things. I think symptoms of a ship in trouble is just throwing paint at the wall. Like kind of how they did with changing the hallway dramatically, changing, I think, moderation powers. And of course, the biggest one that we've all seen is this weird monthly subscription, albeit $5, right? God knows we've all spent $5 a month on far worse things. But what are we getting? Like, so to me as a consumer, sure, well, it's like Moose, you can't complain. We're getting this for free. Sure. To what extent though? Because I intuitively thought that, okay, now they're actually going to start offering perks like being a creep and being anonymous, where you cannot participate in chat. You cannot go on the stage, and the mod cannot kick you out. Now, I know a lot of folks have been freaking out, like, we all saw it in season 1 of Clubhouse. Capital letters, regardless of what your political affiliation was. Everyone had in their profile, I do not consent of being recorded. Well, you actually do. The T's and C's on this app, I think, Roger, you were talking about this last night. We've all consented. Like, I couldn't possibly imagine anything I say on Clubhouse to come back. If I'm going to run for a political office and my opponent is going to mudsling me with, Moots, you were talking about Starbucks salaries, and we got a clip right here. Like, I don't know why people would really care what you're being, unless you're saying like some really far crazy, extremely racist stuff, or obviously anything related to pedophilia that you might have been involved with. Obviously, right, the obvious things that nobody should be saying out loud in general, let alone on an app. But for me, intuitively, I don't care if you're charging $1 a month or $100 a month. If you are now charging your customers, that means your expectation of your customers and your consumers has gone up, obviously, which means intuitively, on the balance of that, our expectations of the plethora of bugs on this app need to be addressed. I'm sure many of you, I don't think it's just a Droid thing. The fact that you still have like that little indicator that you have new messages, and I know first world problems, but the fact that we still have an indicator if you have new messages when you don't, the fact that you can delete some back channel messages, but others you cannot, and for some reason you can delete some, and for some reason you can unsubscribe from other chats, is absolutely wild to me. I honestly think a high school coder with basic coding and engineer skills could fix these bugs. So I'm going to have to point the problems to those folks. Again, I'm not saying those two individuals, but whomever they have empowered to address these sort of bugs. Apparently, they're not high on their priority, but I absolutely have no problem with people reporting me. I know everyone's up in arms, people freaking out. Oh, this anon person is streaming us on YouTube. Great. Who cares? Like, we're in a world now in social media where you have no rights. Like, well, we all click off that little T and C box, but we don't read the 25 pages in microscopic lettering that enables us to use the app. We're just like, oh, let me just use it. So anyway, I don't know if anyone else has a similar frustration of for example, the new message indicator.
Well, Moose, I wanted to get back to you. Sorry to interrupt. So, Moose, I was wrong. You were actually correct. I put it in the group chat. It appears that the average wage of Starbucks is $16 to $19 an hour, but if you include all the paid time off, you include the option to be paid for your schooling and education and all the other benefits, they say it averages out to about $30 an hour, but the average pay is $16 to $19. And on the Clubhouse thing, before I go, I didn't hear what was said prior to 15, 20 minutes ago, but it is a documented fact that Clubhouse started with an initial infusion of $100 million. It was a couple of months after that, another $300 million. So they've had a capital infusion of a total of $400 million. And as far as I'm aware to date, they have not taken in one single dollar of gross profit. Yeah, you know what, Marcos? Go on mute or I have to drop the thank you. As far as I'm aware, Clubhouse has not declared one single dollar of gross profit, but they did start out with $100 million and then another $300 million for a total of $400 million. Business has been running 5 years now. Just a question, how do you run a business for 5 years and not have a single dollar of gross profit? Forget about net profit, gross profit. And thanks, you guys. It's been fun.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, I'll say this. I don't think Clubhouse is ruined. I like Clubhouse. And I'll also say, present company excluded, but the biggest people complaining about who ruined Clubhouse are the fucking biggest grifters on this app. And I'll stand on my square on that shit.
I think it's interesting. Clearly, when the money runs out, Clubhouse will be gone, or they'll get bought by someone else that may or may not decide to keep it going. You can't keep it going forever if you're not making money. That's first and foremost. As far as is it a dying app? The numbers suggest that it's. Depending on the snapshot that you want to start from, is it a dying app? Absolutely. The peak of April 2021 was a long time ago. And so maybe if you started with like a starting point of January 2025, maybe they're picking up a little bit of momentum, but they're nowhere near where they were in the early part of 2021. And it's funny that Paul and Rowan had said themselves, which